Yo, what is going on? PartTimerZack here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Fallen Star. So I kind of did quite a bit of research on this one to get an idea of essentially what it's going to be kind of giving you when it comes to coming out after Frozen Darkness. So we do have 10 days left on this one, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a jump start essentially of what you can kind of expect for Fallen Star, you know, the characters, the memories, the overall layout and stuff like that. So talking about the layout just real quickly, it is going to be very similarly structured to the way that this one is. Obviously they'll use a different background and stuff like that, maybe even rearrange some of these kind of notions here, but giving you an idea that you're going to have a main story, you're going to have a story to kind of progress through. You are going to get chapter 9 as well through the main story, and then you will have interlude on some of the characters that they introduced, the 2 A-rank characters, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then they have co-op. So co-op, from what I understand, is actually going to be a new unit called Black Flash. Now this Black Flash is actually the unit that kind of looks very similar to the Pancake Worm. I don't know if you guys have fought that one, but it has a different kind of move set and a different structure to it essentially, and a little bit harder. Now from what I can kind of gather from looking at it, it does look very similar to the Pancake Worm. So I'm not necessarily sure how similar they are, if they're like, you know, brothers or something like that. I'm not necessarily sure, but it does look like it's a little bit harder, obviously. And then you will have a currency mission essentially to grind through to get currency for a shop. Now, what's in the shop, I won't be able to tell you that essentially until they announce it. I have seen a little bit of the shop from Fallen Star, but I haven't really been able to find videos that show exactly what's going to be in here, unfortunately. So we'll have to kind of cover that when it gets a little bit closer and we get a little bit more of an announcement of exactly what's going to be in here. From what I can kind of understand though, you will probably have a very similar kind of structure with the boxes, the different kind of resources that you can grind, and maybe like a memory that gets added essentially for Fallen Star, which we'll be talking about here in a couple seconds. So going to talking about the 2 new characters, it's going to be A rank, a Watanabe here. He's going to be a 50% dark and a 50% physical, and he's going to be an attacker. I recommend him with somebody like S-Cam to kind of get your dark team essentially started. Now he will be kind of thrown out eventually after a S Luna kind of comes out, but she comes out way further down, so you will have some little bit more of a variety with him obviously, and be able to use him for a little bit longer than a lot of people anticipate. Now we did do a video on him talking about all his stuff, so if you guys want to check it out, it will be in the link down below, and it'll also be in the cards up above. Now talking about Ayla is going to be a unit that I find that's going to be really kind of cool, because she actually introduces the scythe weapon. She's 100% physical and she's an A rank tank. Now, a lot of people probably think that she's going to be really good with somebody like Alpha, because obviously Alpha is 100% physical, but honestly, I feel like she's going to be kind of finding her home with somebody like a Bianca and B Liv. I think that's going to be kind of her team, or a little bit of bread and butter. Right now I'm using Alpha, A Katarina, and B Liv as kind of my structure. I think the A Katarina definitely helps out with pulling enemies close, and then Alpha is able to capitalize that with her red and yellow and her ult obviously. So I think Ayla is going to kind of bread and butter essentially with somebody like a Bianca, which is going to be somebody I'm still going to use until S Bianca comes out. Now we haven't really covered her abilities and stuff like that. I do plan on doing that in a future video, so definitely look out for that if you guys are interested in her. Now talking about the new memory, it's going to be Barcelona, so hopefully I'm saying the name correctly, but she's actually going to come out with Watanabe, and she's going to help out with dark damage and a little bit of an increase to regular attacks. But her main thing is going to be the fact that she can do with this phantom area, and essentially anybody who walks in it gets corrosion, and they take 80% dark damage every 2 seconds and have a reduced dark resistance essentially. So you can get an idea of why pairing that with somebody like Watanabe is going to be kind of a good idea, and kind of grinding out for that one. So this would be what I would expect the store to kind of have, and to give you an idea, but I cannot be 100% obviously, because I have not seen the shop. Of all this different research I've seen, that's the only thing that I cannot apparently see. Now, that is kind of the idea of the overall thing. Obviously, it's going to be very similarly structured to the way that Frozen Darkness is going to be. But let's go ahead and talk about the Tower of Babel, which is another thing that's going to be added with Fallen Star. So it's going to be something that a game mode essentially that a lot of people are going to be pretty hyped for. So think of Pancake, right? I'm going to use this as kind of like a template. You essentially jump in here and you pick a boss. Now, the difference is that you don't actually just pick a difficulty like this and then it just, you know, whatever it wants to do with the abilities, essentially. You actually go in there and you pick these risks. So these risks essentially have the overall premise of it is to challenge you. It is always against you essentially, whether it's a debuff against you and your team, maybe you take more damage of lightning, or maybe you just take more damage in general, or the boss gets more HP, or the boss does more damage in general. It's kind of to give you like a risk reward type of thing, where the challenge is kind of up to you and how you want to structure it. You can take your own debuffs, you can give the boss their own buffs, and it kind of gives you a little bit more of a custom feel to it essentially, and you get rewards depending on the risks that you take. Now, I did talk about it a little bit in the other video, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea, because it is a really fun kind of thing, and it does stay after Fallen Star. It is one of those things that get kind of added into the in-game kind of rotation, and then it gets kind of updated as new events kind of present themselves. You'll get different rewards and stuff like that. So that is pretty much everything that I kind of know about Fallen Stars. Again, we will be talking more and more about it as it kind of presents itself on the global side, and we'll be going more in depth about the missions and stuff like that. But to give you an idea, it will be very similarly structured. Most of these events are, just to give you mainly a basic idea of an expectation, essentially what you can expect in the future. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Have a good rest of your night, guys. Peace.